Hi, I'm Kimberly Springer, curator of the Oral History Archives at Columbia, or OHAC. OHAC is home to one of the world's largest and oldest oral history collections. Founded in 1948, our collections range across a number of topics, including radio, law, medicine, science, architecture, the arts, and the military. Our collections also feature activist histories of the civil rights, peace, feminist, new left, and community organizing histories. Biographical interviews in our collections illuminate cultural, social, and political history through the telling of a life story. In this short presentation, I'll discuss the basics of conducting your own oral history research. This is by no means a comprehensive set of instructions, but by giving you an idea of everything that's involved, I hope you'll explore more resources on aspects of interviewing, recording, transcribing, and co-creating oral histories. A key aspect of oral history is the idea of co-creating or jointly authoring oral histories. Yes, the narrator or person being interviewed is definitely sharing their stories and life history. However, as you'll see from the tasks involved with responsibly researching, developing interview questions, and conducting the interview, you as the researcher will be taking on a lot of practical and ethical considerations. There are three basic parts to your pre-interview process. First, conducting your background research. What do you know about the person you're interviewing? What can you research in advance? Also, what accepted facts do we know about your topic that can inform your interview questions and/or interpretation of the interview? Next in your pre-interview process is developing your interview guide or questions. Though you might have a list of questions, it's a good idea to bear in mind that as our standards and sensitivities around privacy and data privacy especially change, your narrator has the option to not answer your questions. That should be made clear at the outset of the interview. Some questions require a certain level of trust and sensitivity. Think of the oral history interview as more co-created storytelling rather than an inquisition or probing journalistic interview. So you're going to want to ask questions about the who, what, why, where, and when, biographical questions, but also contextual questions which get at the why. Your pre-interview will have an element of gaining trust by conveying how you think about consent and making sure your narrator understands their rights around consent. That means your pre-interview communications include noting the purpose and procedures for the interview, also discussing how the interview will be used, letting your narrator know their rights in terms of asking and receiving questions about the project and process, their ability to refuse to answer certain questions or topics, that they can withdraw from the project at any time, that they might review and edit the transcript, called audit editing, and that they might also restrict use of the transcript. You can do a search for oral history consent agreements and oral history releases online. Before your interview, make sure you know how to use your equipment, so that means practice. I recommend sticking with audio because it's just easier to deal with in terms of audio file size and how comfortable people feel on camera. People tend to forget about a recorder and microphone, but a camera lens with a red recording light tends to be harder to forget about. Also practice not taking notes, just listening. Maybe having a list of topics, but that's it. Otherwise, try to be present. After your interview, you should write up your field notes as soon as possible so you don't forget anything that might have come up in the interview that you want to remember later. Also, if you're transcribing your interview, don't put it off. It takes a really long time to transcribe audio. And at minimum, send your narrator a thank you note. Ideally, you would also send them a copy of the interview, so the audio and the transcript, if you have it, is a nice touch and they'll appreciate it. Here are some tools you might consider using for recording. Some things to bear in mind are whether your narrator needs to be oriented to the tools on their end if you can't be in the same place. Also notable here are that MP3 files are preferred for archiving, storage, and later use. You never know if the proprietary files that some digital tools generate will be available years down the road. And here are some other considerations for recording your interview and archiving them. The best thing to do, though, is to consult the archive where you plan to donate your interviews about file format, text file formats, file naming preferences, and other things that make the archivist's life easier. So thank you for watching this video. If you have further questions, you can email us or also visit our FAQ for information about using the archive, as well as additional links about conducting your own oral history.